and how fast can we march through areas. And so it's just a very simple way of seeing what needs to be done or what should be going on at what time. It's a one-page schedule. Currently in construction, we've got 150 page schedule that nobody knows how to read. There's only one person that knows how to understand the logic. That person's the person that created it. Whereas a tax plan is nice, easy, colorful, coded. Every week or day is on the schedule, and it's a simple one-page graph that you can look at and follow both in the X and Y direction to find out where and what should be going on at a simple time. So, that's Lean Tact, again, leantact.com or Lean Tact on YouTube. They have some amazingly wonderful content. Spencer Easton's a good friend. Jason Schroeder is a good friend. We've just finished writing his second edition to the tax planning book, where we've introduced some really cool concepts. Again, tact is a game changer. I'm telling you now, 5 years from now, um, every construction company, every successful construction company across the nation will be planning their projects utilizing tax planning in support of Last Planner. I'm Adam. I'm done speaking for a minute here.
I just want to welcome Jesse to the stage. Tristan, did you have a response to that or not?
Yeah, but you keep going. I can wait.
Oh, no, you can go ahead, and then we can go from there.
No, just wondered, Adam, when you were talking about tech, whether you've worked with or read about the OEE process, and I wonder whether that could be adapted to more of a construction process. I'm just not sure which thing you'd set it around, but we've experimented with adapting it for office-based work, just to understand that flow and getting into flow, getting into a continuous process, so that you know that things are working and humming along.
I'm not familiar with OEE, Tristan. Can you tell me more, please?
Overall operational efficiency. So what it's monitoring, in a sense, the time efficiency of a machine, so not a person. So you're monitoring a process, not a person, and it's you're taking things like the takt time as a basis for it, but you'll estimate how much for a process, how many parts could you get through within that day. You've got the time frame is how many minutes in a day, and then you cut off. You've got different, like 4 or 5 columns. It's quite a simple form to fill in, but 4 or 5 columns for defects like downtime, where the machines were down or people were not available, or changeover time, and also breaks. So you might have your 24 hours, but you're going to cut off 12 of those because you're not working, and another 2 because of breaks. And then that gives you the amount of time you've got in the day in minutes, and your target for how many parts or how many items you want to achieve in that day. And it's really nice, the efficiency you get out at the end. I don't want to explain it all without the numbers and the visuals. It doesn't make quite so much sense. But you just get a percentage of efficiency, and the efficiency is due to defects and rework, time, so downtime availability, and then the quality of the parts finished out at the end. So you get quite a nice simple number, and it gives you quite a good feel for how the machine is being efficient and running. And you feel this very small number, these very small metrics can give you quite a lot as to, we could tweak this, we could tweak this, we could change the size of orders, we could change the number of people processing this order, we could tweak all these things and see if we can keep that efficiency going. And people start often, if you're tacking this around a machine, it could start at the 40% efficiency, and the very gone through like a Six Sigma or a proper lean process, you might get it up in the 80s, 85%. So anything above that is sort of like grade A quality. But you've got a lot of headroom when it's really a very small thing that you're changing. And it's nice because it's focusing on the process and the results of the process, which is obviously good parts or good things fitted or whatever. I'd be wondering whether that sort of thing could be adapted for some sort of on-site process.
Sorry, you caught me on Instagram following you there. Yes. Yeah. So yes, 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 and yes. Tristan, overall operational efficiency, I love it. In fact, we were putting together some metrics in Jason's new book, or the second edition, and we talked about that, right? Like, how many units are we processing in a week? And we came up with what we were calling a tact equation, because we're trying to make a science out of this schedule deal. And the only difference between that we can find anyway, between our formula and manufacturing's typical formula, is that the variation, or the amount of variables that come into construction when you take into account whether it's our workers' reliability or Mother Nature in general being exposed to the elements, or insert your roadblock here, engineered and designed fully, or scope gap, or again, whatever it might, like, the variation that enters construction's equation, the complexity there is really hard to forecast, and quite honestly, uncountable. Like, I can't tell you the amount of excuses I've heard, or I'll call them excuses. That's probably the wrong word, without respect for people, but yeah, we are trying to make a scientific calculation. Tristan, I would love to learn more. I think you called it OOE, overall operational efficiency, because currently our industry, was that right, Tristan? I saw you come on.
Yeah, no, that's correct. I mean, look it up. There's so much around it. So I've been working with a few companies that have been adding sensors to machinery, and so we've been like quite involved with it. But we've also been just looking and adapting. But I think the whole process is, you can have logbooks and stuff for all the detail if you want, and you can obviously record in very specific as to why there was a failure or a defect, or people weren't available on site, or rain, or whatever. But if you just keep it simple, so how many guys totaled up? How many hours were men on site, women, whatever, on site? How many whatever's that asset you want to do? How many meters of cable laid, pipe fitted? I don't know, joist standing up, whatever, bricks laid. Something that's very simple to manage. And obviously, you count these as separate processes. You can't. You're not tracking an electrician against a bricklayer or whatever. These sort of pieces, and just you can start seeing what that number is. How much are we going back and doing fits and changes afterwards? How much time have we got on site, and how much are we getting done? And just keep it simple. You can log all the other stuff if you want on the outside, but if you just kept those three, if you could be able to audit that sort of numbers of what was achieved and then what was gone back in and fitted and changed afterwards, you can get a number. You're obviously being honest with it.
Yeah.
You might lose a whole week. You might lose a whole day. But you're being honest as to what the throughput is and what you're getting done. And then you start building in those efficiencies and stuff afterwards, and just taking a look at yourself.
Who's keeping track of all of that?
So I'm spitballing a little bit. This is a process that would be put around where I'm coming from in manufacturing, around a line or around a machine. But if you already got people inspecting on site, or if you've already got someone's doing a job sheet saying, I'm checked in and out for those hours of the day, I've fitted 3 rooms or 3 floors or 10 doors or 20 windows or whatever the piece is, surely someone is tracking how much they're saying they're doing. It's an offer, it's a suggestion. So you guys need to see if it works.
So,
it might not be a solution.
So Tristan, we do this, right? We call it the last planner system, really. But teams can play with those statistics a lot, whether we schedule a 4-day activity and go 0 for 1, or we schedule 4 one-day activities and go 3 for 4, right? So And what happens is, Tristan, at least from my perspective, where I've seen is teams, especially in construction, end up pulling individual statistics and not the overall team statistics. And a lot of times, and Marcus and Brittanie had an amazing room like this on weaponizing metrics, and they are weaponized quite a bit. So we do, when you started talking more about it, we do have this, again, the last planner system where all trades are there. What we're really trying to work on is how does that last planner system or those weekly work plans, how do they mirror the overall schedule, the overall master schedule? And again, without burying logic behind 100 pages, that's where attack planning really helps us to understand very simple flow and how we can drive into weekly milestones to drive daily progress. And you're right, Tristan, we do shoot for that 80% mark. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I just tapping my mic. you guys go for it. I was coming to listen, but we can keep talking if you like.
Yeah, no, I love where your head's at because, and you'll be surprised in construction how many teams don't do the follow up to go count how many windows were installed yesterday. Like something that easy that construction teams just don't do, and then, like, let alone go and find out why they weren't installed. So anyway, we've got some pretty awesome people in the room. We'd love to hear from others as well, Tristan or Jesse, Miss Stephanie, Brittanie.
I know. Okay. Brittanie.
I was just going to say hello, everyone. Good morning. Happy to be here. Really excited to listen into the conversation about tact and OOE. I feel like I'm learning. Just a little bit about me. Tristan, I know, Ann, you've been here last week, and then Susanna. Thank you for joining the room. Jesse, Stephanie, always appreciate your support and presence and contribution all the time. I'm Brittanie Campbell-Turner, CEO and founder of Constructor and founder of the PropTech Group. So I'm really, really just excited for this conversation today. Adam, I'm loving the topics and where they're going. Appreciate it, everyone.
Jesse, feel free to introduce yourself.
Good morning. Y'all are probably going to hear some road noise because I'm headed to work. Jesse Hernandez here, salsa dancing, podcasting, plumber, baby, second generation plumber. I appreciate Tristan's message around OOE and measuring things, like really the capacity of the mechanism. What can it actually produce? And one specific statement he said was, you just got to get honest with yourself. And also talked about some very small units, small numbers. And in construction, I've just recently learned a new technique for improving work. And we're getting down to the seconds of each task or subtask within an element of work. And when I say element of work, I'm talking about a person or a small crew executing the work. And at first I was skeptical about it, right? Because it's not big, sexy weeks and months that are being removed from the schedule. But as a result of studying the seconds, in one case, we're working through an improvement idea that's going to remove 1,200 man hours from a data center. It's going to eliminate a day and a half, a full calendar day and a half of build time in each each cell in each colo. And every single second of those hours of that work is like ridden with risk in terms of injuring the human being. I guess what I'd like to propose for people to consider in the future is the challenge is the seconds, right? Like, well, we're talking about seconds here. And people, it's easy to get lost. Like, well, what's the big deal here? What's the real change? But if we think about what every minute is made of and what every hour is made of and what every month is made of, there's seconds brains all up in that bad boy. And so to hear that, I mean, there's just so many tools and methodologies out there. And
Wait a minute, Jesse. Wait a minute. You talking about seconds?
Yes,
All these minutes around here, we talking about seconds?
you got it. You got it, man. You almost sounded exactly like one of our project executives.
We've got to do a reenactment of Allen Iverson's practice, right? Practice? You talking about seconds? Seconds?
Yep.
That's got to be on your podcast, Jesse.
I got to make a little meme about it. You got it. You got it. But as it relates to the tools, TAC, OOE, last planner system, just everything, right? There's a myriad of stuff out there. And maybe, but this is what I'd like to leave on the table, maybe a question, maybe more of a request. And rather than think of which is the best tool, it's first focus on culture, and second, welcome every damn tool. Because my observation is there is not one single silver bullet, and we got so many damn problems out there that learning and practicing different methodologies, especially that are maybe outside of your current industry, can bring tremendous value. Rather than shooting each other down, let's lift each other up. I'm Jesse, and I'm done speaking.
None size fits all.
I appreciate those seconds that you are saving, Jesse.
Thank you.
What's the name of the tool, the process that you're using for the seconds?
So we've titled it Gemba-based improvement. And when I say we, that's specific within Turner. But we learned that knowledge was imparted to us through Lean Enterprise Institute. And my coach directly was Brian Sanders, who's a former longtime career Toyota guy before he came over to LEI. They may have a different. I think they generally put it under the Kaizen bucket, but we've given it a name local to Turner, which is Gemba-based improvement.
Totally understand why a company would want to change the name and go with a process that people can identify with, and they know they're doing. Lets them know that they're doing a new technique. Stephanie, welcome to the stage. Feel free to. You already contributed, but contribute more or introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi. I'm just here to, as usual, sop up the knowledge, and as was just identified, none fits all. So, would really love to hear sort of the context of the scenarios, perhaps of the example that Jesse gave, or because Adam and Jason and Spencer are so pro tact, in what circumstance would drive that particular emphasis on tact?
Well, let me give that a stab. So in Jesse land, TACT is a preemptive measure to organize, coordinate, and set the strategy for the work. Um, Gemba-based improvement can be done in reaction to, or it can also be done preemptively. So when I say in reaction to, I'm talking specifically, let's say the TAC train starts falling off the tracks. And so we have a problem. There's a problem likely within the installation of a particular piece, let's say a mechanical room, just say a system. Mechanical system is not meeting their output rate. And typically in construction, our go-to default is we need more people, which only exacerbates the problem. And so Gemba-based improvement would be deploying and or many individuals to study the installation of the work, and more specifically, study the entire process associated with that work, and find the break point or the failure points within that system, and then do a deep dive on the individuals or the group, specifically targeting hard work. And when we say hard work, what we're talking about is the uncomfortable work. Think about walking around with a pebble in your shoe, and you can probably continue walking, and it's going to irritate the heck out of you, but it's not so painful that you're going to take it out. You become desensitized to it. Then you end up with a damn blister. So that's what we're looking for in the work. Like, try holding up, you pick up a cup one time, no big deal. Try holding that cup out for about 6 hours. It's a pretty damn big deal. So those are the things that we're looking for. And then the improvement ideas are targeted to remove that, to minimize the burden in that work, which optimizes the output of the human being, minimizes motion, right? Time is the shadow of motion. You minimize the motion, you minimize the time, and the work improvements are designed to make the work suck less for the individual so the improvement ideas stick, meaning they enjoy them and they use them and they keep going when you leave. So preemptively, it would be deployed on a problem. I'm sorry, reactively it would be deployed on a problem. Preemptively, you could do your analysis of the TAC train and find your bottleneck, or that one point that if it could be sped up, we could cut some time off responsibly, and deploy the analysis of that work in this methodology to, again, optimize the work, but primarily or initially, you're just looking to improve the work for the human beings. Jesse, and I'm done speaking.
Hey guys, I have a question. Um, for those of you who are really in depth into tact, even you, Tristan, with your manufacturing experience, I am on the owner's side, so I'm typically the one who's requesting the work, or requesting the work on behalf of someone else. And as I think about these thoughts about seconds, and even just thinking about the granular execution of the work, I'm always saying, okay, well, what am I responsible for, and or what might a designer be responsible for, whereby these tools can be used effectively in order to not only think about the execution and how much more um, efficiently you can do it during those times, but how can you actually use the tact planning and or OE in the design phase and pre-construction phase? So if you have any insight onto how that strategically can be done within those early stages, please share. Really appreciate it.
So, Brittanie, I would say that, again, think about it as you're just organizing work in a beat, and you're flowing work at a certain pace or rhythm. And that work can be physical work, that work can be information, that work, um, again, think of it as a single flow unit. And then how long does it take that single flow unit to move through a process? And then
Yep,
once
I'm
you
familiar with.
understand,
Yeah, I'm familiar with Nicholas Modig. I understand like one
yep,
piece flow. I do. I guess
yep.
I'm curious as to whether there's an example that you guys know of and or could speak to. That's I apologize for cutting you off, Adam, but that's really what I'm asking for.
Yeah, I mean, I would think of just the design phases in general, then, right? You have conceptual, schematic, design, and construction documents. And so each one of those has a certain period or length, and then duration associated with it. And that design becomes our unit, and we move that through the stages as folks work together in an agile process. Is that what you're after?
Yeah, I think to some degree, I think I was curious as to whether you've done it before, like alongside a designer in the past. Even like with Tristan on the manufacturing side, as you're developing the design, engineering, whatever component, right? In order to go through the actual manufacturing process, how is, from two perspectives, right? How are you improving the process in order to take out time for the assembly, if you will? But in addition to that, within your own design process, I'm just curious as to if anyone has worked with anyone who's doing that. Have they experienced like seeing that specifically? And if you haven't, that's okay. But just curious as to whether that's taken place in your work experiences.
Well, I've got I'm going to pitch this example and see if it connects. It has nothing to do with TACT or OOE. It's specifically out of GBI. One example, maybe two. In studying the work, we were focused on some electricians landing their cables within some gear. And one of the big things that stood out was they had to lay on the ground and contort themselves to execute the work. I mean, that was the way they had to do the damn work. We had the client present as part of the learning. Actually, the client brought this learning to us. And the question was like, why is it that way? And so, of course, we asked, like, we're going to have to say you, sir. And so he took that forward back to design, and they've begun design, or they're planning to request this gear to have the bus within the gear at a specific elevation so that they're not laying on the floor, and so that they're also not hunched over trying to do the work. Because that was another scenario where the workers had to be half bent over because they couldn't stand straight up, which also was not fun. So that's one piece. Another example is around some of these hot aisle containment units. The work itself that's happening out on the job site is it absolutely does not have to happen on the job site. It can 100% be done at the manufacturer's plant. And so we're working through that damn thing to make that happen. And what's interesting is the manufacturer, those folks are struggling to understand why or how important or the benefits of picking up that work. I mean, right now it's just funny because they're going to have to rearrange. Of course, they're going to have to rearrange their setup, and so we're trying to move it further upstream, trying to get that into the design. And so the real problem maybe here, or something to consider, is evaluating or being present to study the execution or installation of the work would help the designer and the engineers better understand how they're contributing to some of the damn problems we're and I mean I should say not contributing, but the lack of awareness leads to time extensions and just burden out there on the job site. How far off base was I, Miss Brittanie?
Oh, that was great, Jesse. Yeah, that was a great example of um, focusing on ergonomics in order to improve work conditions, which ultimately help with efficiency. So that's really great.
Oh,
I see Alan hopped up on the stage. Welcome, Alan.
man.
Good morning. I jumped up to kind of add to Brittany's discussion, where I believe the thread was building efficiencies into the design as well as the process. Yeah. So I think in the realm of, I'm in the medical device space, and this isn't construction related, but in the realm of manufacturing for medical devices, what you can really look at is additive manufacturing, where does each step of your process need to be manual, And if not, can you build the parts, the sub-assemblies, in a way where it's all done at the same time? And certainly, even that can come with its own set of pros and cons. For example, are you meeting tight tolerances? Are you meeting specs? Are you meeting the design stack up tolerance that is needed to go into your product? In my case, it's making manufacturing catheters. So that's something you want to look at. But also, when you think about designing efficiency into your process, I think it's really important to look at that, because a lot of the times we think about designing efficiencies into our design itself, and we miss the fact that a lot of time is wasted in terms of, are you efficiently mapping out your shop floor to minimize the amount of movement? Are you setting up your tools near your technician so that you don't have to get up and move around all the time? Are you setting up your work cells so that it's all in a way that makes sense, where you can go from work cell to work cell, and you're not dedicated to one spot? And then also, it's really important that as we get into the age of more and more advanced technology, that we don't forget that there's a very real human element to all of this, which means that, is your process something that is scalable, that is manufacturable from a practical standpoint, not just from a theoretical standpoint? Because we can design um, all the processes that we want, but unless we get the feedback from um, the people that are actually touching the product, we won't truly understand how efficient the process might be. And it might make sense manufacturing one of those pieces, but when you start manufacturing 10, 100, 1,000, does it still scale in the same way? Is it still sustainable? And those are the things that we really need to look at. And so, as a very concrete example, actually, it might be proprietary, so I'll pass on that. But I hope that makes sense. Done speaking.
So, Brittany, let me take another stab at this, right? So, I can make coffee in 44 seconds before I leave my house in the morning. This is not a Keurig. Like, this is 44 seconds. I have literally renovated my kitchen around my coffee making process because that's important to me. And so, everything's a process. And
Wait, are
if,
you talking about seconds?
second,
Are you talking about seconds?
I love it. I'm so doing that. It looks like, oh yeah, Jesse, we got to do that, man. That I've got such a vision for that. But anyway, yes, 44 seconds, and I've cut 44 seconds out of my process. So I went from a minute and a half to 44 seconds, and I have timed myself. I have videotaped myself. I have relocated my coffee pot closer to the water source. I've relocated my trash can closer to the water source. I can balance the coffee pot in the middle while I dump yesterday's grounds. I have a process, and I have improved that process over time. And I've, again, saved 44 seconds each day. I don't even drink coffee in the morning. My wife loves having it when she wakes up. So I make it real quick before I leave, and it brews as I leave. And so that 44 seconds, yes, Brittany, we're talking about seconds. It is seconds. We should do anytime. So Marcus, I'm going to put on one of my little Roadcaster buttons. I'm going to have one that it's going to be me doing the Allen Iverson second. We talking about seconds? But so those 44 seconds over the course of, hopefully I live another 30 years, right? So 44 seconds every day of a week for 30 years equates to an entire week of time over my life that I'm going to experience more out of life than just making coffee. And again, that's a little extreme, but I just got done reading a book by Charles Duhigg. Marcus and I talked about it. It's called Smarter, Faster, Better. And in that book, he talks about two things I want to mention. One is it only takes a 3-degree shift in angle to get you from New York to LA. That's small. That's small changes. The other one is compound improvement, right? So if 100 is my number and I have a 50% improvement in that, I'm at 150. I only need to lose 33% of that to get back to my original 100. So trying to maintain, right? Trying to keep up with where you're at, trying to keep this leverage moving is small improvements compound over time, right? But you lose them very, very easy. So, uh, again, just a couple of things that were burning on my mind as we're sitting here talking about seconds.
That's perfect, Adam. Thank you for that. And thanks for the entertainment, guys, and allowing me to chime in too. I just, for those who are not familiar with the book 2 Second Lean by Paul Akers, I think, yes, seconds once again. I feel as though when I was introduced to that book, by Afshan Barshan, in the community of practice in Chicagoland area about 8 or 9 years ago now, it changed my life, and I said I really have to investigate this lean thing, quote unquote. It's been history ever since. But yeah, really really appreciate the practical example, Adam.
And it's a free book, right, Brittanie? Like most all of Paul Akers stuff is free, which makes it that much better in the lean world.
I did just quickly want to recognize those who are in the audience: Anne, Myra, Christine, Maiwand, and Susanna. We are, really talking about anything lean construction, but we've been circling around, obviously, the seconds that we can really identify to make improvements through different methodologies. Adam has been really leaning into tact, but if you guys have any questions or contributions, really would love to hear from you. Susanna, you've hopped up on the stage. Would love to hear from you. Would you introduce yourself?
Hi, good afternoon from London, UK. Good to be here. Thank you for inviting me to speak. Well, we are one of the companies bringing new solutions for the construction sector. So we are all about to reduce waste that goes to landfill, materials that we could now recover. So we are providing new solutions that enable reusability for building materials that apply for tiles, for floors and walls. So basically, we are really transforming that part of the sector, willing to, by recovering those materials, we can better manage between businesses and end users. And through the whole supply chain is a whole improvement from the material selection to going through manufacturing, supplying, installation, etc. So obviously, in construction, we are really considering all the stages when we speak with stakeholders, and for them to not just get to know the new solutions, the new ways to go forward, but also to understand the degree of how we all need to evolve together at the end of the day to reach the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, and create a healthier, well-being ecosystem. So yeah, my name is Susanna. I'm the CEO, founder of Alstom. We've been working in innovation and product designs and systems, not just product, because the system is what leads better performance, and not just the product itself, but also other products, like is in our case, because materiality has to be better considered, in the way that materials are implemented to be easy disassembly, as installation, disassembly after recovery, replacement of materials without not having a major operation, but being straightforward and cost effective and time effective, which is very important as we build our buildings. So yeah, I've been listening in the background. I think it's very important that to be connected with the different stakeholders, like I say, architects, builders, construction in general, and whoever is interested in the subject, because it's a massive part of the sector that needs to be transformed to be more efficient. And we are pioneering what you may know already, what is circularity, circular economy, the new ways of bringing forward implementation and do it slightly. It's not more difficult as well. It's more simpler. That's one of the things the engineers are very shocked when they see what we have. But at the end of the day, I think humanity has been very complex in some things, in some terms that we should not. And as you know, in nature doesn't exist waste. So we believe everything is up to us to be able to reuse and better use, cycle, redesign, change the lead of that materiality that converts into a product, of course. And we are, of course, we know recycling is going to be there for a while, and it's going to be there still. But we all know as well that materials can be recycled 3, 5, 10 times, but thereafter is more and more difficult and not healthy. So if we better keep the materials and better use those, then we can create that ecosystem that we all can live better. And by saying that, if you don't mind, I would like to mention that we have just created recently a club, which is the Materials Reuse Club. And you are more than welcome to follow me, to follow the club so you become a member, because we will start soon conversations. And it will be good to have stakeholders from different countries. We already have a great list in very short time, which means that others are very interested in the subject and believe that also we can create better systems by reusing and taking care of the materials, repairing, sharing the economy, sharing the materials within stakeholders and the society, because that's possible. We just need to be constructive and build towards that direction. Thank you very much for letting me speak. Thank you.
Susanna, quick question, Helen speaking. Are you connected with Deborah Dahl? She's really passionate about circular economy and digital supply chains and circular supply chains as well.
You can repeat the name, please. I'm not sure I got the.
Do you have your social media connected? I can send you her link. Yeah, I'll send it on Instagram.
Yes, please do that, and then I'll have a look, and if we are connected or not, we speak. Thank you very much, Alan. Thank you.
I think first of all that's fantastic. I will connect with you, Susanna, offline. There's somebody in a materials exchange way that I'm connected with on LinkedIn. I think it's really fascinating that we're bringing all these pieces of the construction site together in these conversations. And I did have a question that was outside the realm, but because all these great new underlying systems and tools exist, what would the team of experienced people on this stage recommend for new engineers coming into the market, or people that are, God forbid, new tradespeople coming into the market? What would you ideally start them off with so that they could get immersed in these tools?
Well, obviously we have been building the brand Alstom for over 8 years, and with all the meetings we had, which has been none of them negative, everything has been really positive because it's very straightforward. So with the different ways how to approach and how to for them to understand, but faster actually, not better, because that's easy to understand. Is to show them, to prove them, obviously the health check of the products and the life cycle and the extension that we provide to those products is effective and is obvious. Yeah, when something is obvious and and is obsoleting completely the way, just by saying installers are installing at the moment the products, the tiles. They are doing with concrete adhesive, for example, yeah? And concrete adhesive is one of the major pollutants, and by doing that, they are mixing with water, right? So because our systems are self-adhesive, low bulk, then we are removing completely from the sector the concrete adhesive, and by doing that, we are also saving water, which is a massive exercise. So in the different stakeholders, the different how we speak and how we describe the steps in each part of the supply chain, that helps to others to understand that, oh, this is a good product to trade with or to work with, because it's going to improve our business, the business we give to our customers, and also not just about the business and the economy, but our health, because the installers, they install, also they are inhaling the toxics from the carbon from the concrete adhesives, and etc., etc. So by explaining in each part, in each step, like logistics as well, our systems are very light. So in the logistics, we can transport more and less pollution. Also, we keep and advise to all of our stakeholders, even the logistics, to keep things as local as we can. And for example, we only transport products from factory direct to the project site. We don't. It's not that just advice. We foment. We demand that the products go straight to the project site. So we avoid and limitate the logistics, the movement of the transport. So also again, saving in terms of producing carbon emissions, pollution, because we understood and we saw through, I've been in the construction and design over 20 years, although my way of thinking is very different from forever, since I was born, I guess. But the thing is, I see things in a way that can be more feasible, effective, and simplifying. It doesn't need to be complex. Just informing adequately to each of the stakeholders how they can improve and give better service, and also save money to their customers. And like this, we can be all more effective. And as soon as everybody understands is they are not doing it now, they are going to be left behind, because there are companies doing it already. And as we speak every day, I'm now very glad for the clubhouse that exists as well, because otherwise we won't be now connected and be able to really taking action and speaking, and not just speaking, but like I say, taking action, because as we speak, tons of materials are demolished and sent to landfill. Maybe perhaps 20% it is recovered, and even though not even that, and then buildings are built. Those materials are for us implemented in a very wrong way, because now they are the way that it enables that reusability. So I think that informing properly on every stage how we can deliver efficiency and reduce the carbon emissions, that's key, Stephanie. That's key. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to welcome John Zahara and Jennifer Lacey to the stage. John is one of our moderators that leads the Lean Construction Roundtable. So I do want to give both of those individuals opportunities to speak, and first introduce yourselves for those who are in the audience who may not know you. But yeah, I would love to hear from you guys.
Good morning, all. John Zahara, Vice President of Integrated Facility Solutions. We're an owner's representative program manager in the Chicago area. And the other thing I am passionate about and work on most of my day typically is lean improvement, lean coaching, working with teams to help them just become better at what they do, because they're already doing great things, just improve on what they're already doing today. So do webinars, speak across the country about lean construction and the idea that it's how can we most efficiently manage our project cycles. So that's me, and welcome.
This is Jennifer Lacey. I am the lean practice leader for Robbins and Morton. We are a national healthcare general contractor. And what I do, let me think. I guess right now the focus is for me, we really focus on culture. Culture is kind of how our foundation is when it comes to lean. We obviously have lots of tools and lots of processes. And so I work with all of our project teams on alignments, kind of getting our projects and environments set up early, making sure the culture's set up with our everyone on site, not just our teams, but our trade partners and our owners and our designers. And really, I think I'm just coming off of a huge one yesterday, so that's kind of where my brain is. But do a lot of, I guess, sorry, it's early. Our building forward approach, which is our kind of lean initiative, focusing on collaboration, continuous improvement, learning culture, and leadership development. And I mean, almost everything we do falls under one of those categories. All of us, I think, on the stage. So just trying to make sure that we are establishing the culture right, making sure that we're creating win-win situations for everyone, and it's not just a one-sided success. I think that's where that's where my focus is right now.
And Alan here. I always have to scramble to find a notepad to write notes whenever you speak because it's always so amazing. The one thing I would like to add to that is, when we talk about, we were talking about lean a little bit before you came in. Brittany brought it up, and there was some conversation around it. And I'd just like to offer to the stage that when we talk about lean, there's folks that are certified, but then there's also folks that are practitioners of lean. And when we talk about culture, we want to make sure that we're not just certified in lean, but that we're actually building lean throughout our process. And that's the only way that it can be sustainable because too often I'll see folks that are not certified in lean, but just through their work experience embody a lot of these principles and just do it intuitively versus people who took a 2-day course where they're now experts on lean and they push for initiative and then they might implement it, but then it just completely falls off because they weren't interested in the maintenance part of it. So I would just like to offer that when we speak about lean, that we really embody the principles and that we, to your point, Jen, we really build it into the culture of the company. Thank you. Done speaking.
Don't be done speaking, Alan. Preach. Preach, Alan.
It's too early for me to get on my soapbox. You should take the mic, Adam.
I love where your head's at. I mean, in Jen, Jen makes everybody better around her every conversation, which is all things lean. And I love what John said. Right, I'm discovering this concept of why I don't like the word consultant, especially lean consultant. It's because, in my again humble opinion, lean consultants like to implement lean on projects versus creating lean, creating environments where lean things can happen. And so Dean Reed recently did on the Lean Construction blog a webinar that was called Creating Lean, Not Implementing It. And it's really got my wheels turning, and I love where it's at. Alan, to your point earlier, I'm on a kick of trying to put together what I'm calling the old school lean thesaurus, the old dog lean thesaurus. And basically it's like, hey, you old superintendents who are real, like, have these like ways about them and they're really, really great builders and they don't want to learn that lean shit. Pardon my kind of my verbiage, but we are in a construction room. I'm not learning that lean shit, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, yeah, you're right. You don't have to. You're already using these principles intuitively. You understand small batches. You understand when you add people, you get complexities. Like, you get it. So why are we as lean practitioners trying to change what you already call something? And that's a pet peeve of mine. So, Alan, I could listen to you all day preach about that. But I'm going to yield the floor back.
Adam, I mean, it's great to hear you and Alan and everybody else talk this morning. I have had a ongoing battle with the Lean Construction Institute about the word change, because they talked about so one year at one of their conferences, they split us up into 4 groups based on the answer you gave, and the answers were, what is stopping you from changing and following a lean model? And one of them was kind of your client. One of them was internal teams. One of them was yourself. And then the last one was other. The last category was other. So you had to vote for one of these categories, and then they sat you with the people that were like-minded. And I voted for other. And the other, when I stood up and said why I voted for other, I said, it's the word change. We have to stop using the word change because it's garbage. The people that have been doing this job for decades know all they need to know about lean tools and principles. They know about flow on a project. They know why it's important. What you're giving them when you're coaching them to the next level is really about the language to use to become more open and respectful for people. And then you're also just giving them the tools to push accountability where it belongs, so that they don't, the superintendents really is the kind of the gold mine of where you can start to really connect into how do you create a lean culture on a project site. Tap into the superintendent, find out what he or she needs, and understand that they're going to become facilitators of good conversations and problem solving, and not babysitters of people. They didn't want that job as a superintendent so they could babysit contractors and figure out what time they were showing up, what time they were leaving, how many people they were bringing every day to the job site. That junk is waste of their time and talent. What they're really good at is facilitating good conversations and problem solving. So you're going to teach them the accountability level and how to push accountability where it belongs. And then you're going to give them a few new tools on language. But other than that, they have everything else they need. We all do. That's the beautiful thing about being a lean, just kind of person, mind, body, spirit, everything.
This is Jennifer, and John, you are so spot on. And I want to make 2 points. One, it's a whole nother clubhouse. We can't talk about it today, but LCI has a lot of issues with change, not just the word. So we can talk about that on another day. But the other is when
Shots
you,
fired.
I think superintendent is spot on, because when I work on the alignment meetings, and alignment for us is, kind of getting everyone on the team together early, talking through everything and making sure we're all on the same page, not just all yes, nodding our heads, but moving in the same direction, having the same goals. And so I want to add one layer to that, because superintendent, absolutely, we've rescheduled him because superintendent was on vacation and it just happened to be timed that way. And so we will reschedule it, because absolutely manager in charge needs to be in the room, but also our executive leadership has to be in the room. And I think that's another layer of people that you can get the superintendent bought in, and you can get him to go, yeah, I'll show up because you want me to, and then you can even get him to see that it's not something totally different. But when we have that leadership support in the room and supporting him and letting them know that, hey, we're bought in as well. Just went through one yesterday, and it was I'm going to say a very experienced superintendent. And and I think when he sees his leader in the room and they're having conversations, and that leader's able to show, the things that we're doing and how it's going to help us sustain into the future, it makes all the difference in the world. And we had giveaways at the end, and it was great because that superintendent was the winner of our Lean Builder book. And so he was excited. And I said, I'm not sure you know what you're excited about yet, but I'm excited. So this is Jennifer. I'm done speaking.
Yeah, I think Jennifer, those are great examples of winning people over. Is it's sometimes tough when you walk in the room as kind of that lean coach, as maybe even an outsider, which is something I advocate for. It's something I do personally, but just in general, to have somebody from the outside walk in who doesn't have a connection to any of the people in the room is sometimes important, because then you're there as this person to help get people out of their seats and really just move them around and get them talking and asking questions that they don't normally get asked because they've been stuck in this rut. And yeah, I'm heavily involved with the Lean Construction Institute, and yeah, I do have a lot of issues with the idea of why is it's almost like the word lean has become like a bad word. We've talked about that in this room before, in this roundtable. Like, should we title this something else so that it's more open to people? Yeah, the lean ideas are what we're going to mainly focus on, but and we can get into the deep dive of all the other things. But you brought up the word, Jen, you brought up the word culture. And I know we've talked about that basically every week, but that's what it's all about. I mean, that's the most important thing, is developing this culture where people are willing to learn and listen. And if they're not right for the culture, then those individuals don't really always belong in your company. And that's sometimes a hard thing to see, or to focus on, is that you might not have the right people.
I agree, Marcus. And I mean, I have one slide that I use that and I realized it was over time. Every time I'd have people come at me. I say that very nicely. With, yeah, Jennifer, what about this? Yeah, Jennifer, what about this? And what I got the most of, and it goes right back to Adam's point too, is that most of the things that were coming into the conversation, Jennifer, yes, but we have our policies and procedures, and we have these things, and you're talking about stuff that's not concrete and not objective, and there was a lot of things like that, and I killed it with one slide, and I use it in every presentation. It doesn't matter when I'm talking to which teams, my new hires. It's one slide. It's a scale, and it has compliance on one side, and it has continuous improvement on the other. And the greatest piece of it is it's a scale. It's a balance. And so I tell them, I say, hey, we have to have both of these things to be successful. Sometimes, we have to lean towards the compliance. We have to be able to build. It has to be a basic foundation, because you can't improve building if you can't build. So compliance, we have to have those policies and procedures to be able to build. I said, but once we can get that foundation and we understand that there's probably better ways to do it, then we can lean that scale a little bit on the other side, on that continuous improvement, and we start throwing out ideas and start trying new things. I said, but we have to understand there's times it's going to lean one way and there's times it's going to lean another. And it doesn't mean it's all policies and procedures, and it doesn't mean it's all continuous improvement, and we throw out all the things that worked up until now. And it goes back and forth. And I'm telling you, the light bulbs that go off in that room and the things that happen from that one slide, it's amazing.
Could you share that slide, Jen? I'd love to see that.
Me too.
Absolutely, but it is so basic that it's one of those things that I've done it, and I don't know why it took me so long to create it, but absolutely I will.
I would encourage this group to. So I agree how important culture is, but there's a level deeper of why cultures are so important and how we curate cultures, and behaviors is again really where my mind is stuck after reading some of the Charles Duhigg work. I really think we've got to start thinking about behaviors and how we can influence the behaviors that we seek on that represent positive outcome projects. Any thoughts on that from this group, on how we can influence behaviors or even measure the behaviors that we expect?
So we talked about, Adam, like the measurement of behavior, with if you're going and doing last planner out in the field, and you're facilitating that conversation, and that methodology of planning, did you do what you said you were going to do? Did you follow through on the promises you said you were going to follow through on? So there's one way of focusing on the behavior of people. by saying, here's all of the things that we said we were going to do this week, and did we do them? And if we didn't do them, here's the why. So I always look at the why didn't we do them? What are the reasons why we missed something, as an opportunity to change, to look at how we update and can modify
But
behavior.
those are lagging, John. How do we get leading indicators of behaviors of, hey, our culture is not trending right? How do we get to the point where we're actually influencing our culture through measurements?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tougher one, because you have to. So I think there's I use the concept of this idea of philosophy, lifelong learning, and I think what we've done is we've used it as a tool for our project management team, where we come together and we do book study of books based on different topics. So we've read the Toyota Way, and then we try to apply it to our business model, things like that. So we're asking our project managers on the front end to buy into the idea of lifelong learning, and then we want them to present a chapter on how it ties into their life, their job, etc. So I think that's one way to kind of push this idea of they're responsible for teaching this to others.
I'd like to add here, John, to your answer. Felipe actually brought up a really great solution to that question, Adam, that I haven't been able to try yet, but I'll share what I understood from what he shared last week, because I asked a very, very similar question. Oh, welcome, Sana. She's here. She's also a moderator and a consistent comer to our conversations and contributor. So yeah, Felipe's example was, he asked the question throughout the entirety of the project: would you want to work with the people that you're working on this project? Do you want to work with them again? Do you enjoy working on this project, and would you want to work with the same people again? And that was the question that drove that really behavior and culture question, in order to determine, like, is this worthwhile? Is it something that's enjoyable? He did confirm that it was anonymous, but they were able to dig into the reasons why, after getting feedback, why, if people were not happy working with each other and didn't want to work with each other again. But it was something that was measured on a continuous cadence, and they watched for improvement on that measure.
That's exactly what I was after, Brittanie. That was awesome. 2 easy, simple questions that you could ask throughout the duration of the job. My only follow-up is, how do we make that visual? And maybe it's just putting a dry erase board and having people write yes or no and why if they participate. I love that answer. Thank you. You said Felipe gave that?
Yeah, Felipe Engineer Mariquez. He's
And
not
then
here today, but yes.
Did he hit you with a little audience applause afterwards?
Oh yes. Oh yes, he did.
Love it. No, that's spot on. And John, I love where you were heading too, right? Like, hey, we're going to jump in front of it and forecast by setting the example of, hey, we want to follow the Toyota way, the principles from Toyota, like getting aligned with language, and that can really influence culture. So I love that as well.
Hey, this is Jennifer, and just Adam, I want to add, just based on that question that Brittanie said, Felipe started. It makes me remember during the 360 leadership kind of reviews. There's a question in there that they ask, would you follow this person over a hill? And it's not the same question, but I feel like with that, there may be something that we can dig into that review process when it comes to leadership. And maybe there's some things there, that's some structure or some things that would fall right in line with the stuff we've been talking about.
Yeah, I mean, one way we've done this, kind of, how do you align with? There's a couple things we're talking about, like how do you get people to keep focusing on it? We've had our you take, everyone has core values, and we talked about core values a few months ago on Clubhouse in the morning here, and talked about, like, what are your core values as a company? Do you know what they are? Do you understand the definition of why we created those as our core values? So doing that study internally is a good idea. And then what do you do with that information? Do you post it on the wall? Where do you put it so that people are focused on it and cognizant of it and thinking about it all the time? And one study I did for a presentation I just did recently was about how do the core values of the teammates that we're using align. So it's another way of, like, do I want to work with people that have an alignment to the core values that I have as a company and my company's core values compared to theirs? And what we found was that the two commonalities between, I think it was 4 team members, the owner, us as the owner's representative, the contractor, and the architect, was the two aligned core values were results and teamwork. So, I think we all have very similar, I would say, language in our core values, but those two things stood out, and I was like, okay, I want to work with people that I align with, and that's one way to at least choose possibly who I continue to work with and how I work with them, is if I align with them on their idea of what they believe in as their core values as their company, what is their culture like, and those are the people that I want to work with. The people that fight me and that push against too hard, those are people I choose not to work with, and we all have that choice. So that's another way to say, how does my culture align with yours? Look at people's core values on their website and study them. If you're coming on board as a new partner of theirs or whatever, that's a great way to do that.
This is Jennifer. I just want to. John was talking and Marcus talked earlier, and I think we were talking about naming the group and what lean is. And I know when I see lean, when I think about lean, when I talk about lean, it's all about that continuous improvement. How are we making things better? How are we making our industry better? How are we making our people better? And when we say better, it doesn't mean that they suck and that we need to fix them. It just means that, and I hope all of us are in agreement that we all know that even if we're in a good place and we've had success, that we know that there's going to be a better way, or there's going to be an improvement that will continue moving us forward. And so that, I'm not sure if that helps with the name of it or replacing it, because I think lean is still the foundation of a lot of what we're doing with culture. But I feel so much that continuous improvement piece. And John was talking about teamwork and results. And I sometimes struggle when people start throwing, one or two concepts out. And John, I know that's not what you were doing. And I know it was a process that you got those out. And I really love the idea of finding those key terms and things that people can align on. But I think we need to really look at what is at the core of why we're in this room.
So I had a conversation with Brittanie about a different room name once, actually earlier this week. And the question I asked was, if I was Googling or looking for information, what would make me, what are the type of questions I would ask to help me discover this concept? So so basically, in this situation, would be like, if I was trying to go down a continuous improvement journey or Kaizen and improvement journey, what would be the questions I would ask myself that would help me discover, like, lean construction or continuous improvement or tact even? Like, what would be those things that I would, in my head, be like, okay, I want to be better at this, and this is what I'm going to go ahead and find.
Can I just add a little bit of, because I'm more outside the group in terms of practical construction experience. I think if you're trying to attract people to this, it would be really helpful to just say just speak English, how to be better at construction, and then they come in the room and then they actually learn this stuff, because it's a whole bunch of stuff that really comes down to value, respect, all those people kind of principles at the end of the day. I'm Stephanie. I'm done speaking.
I got a comment as well. So, and thank you I'm back here. I've been in Europe for 3 weeks, so a little bit jet lagged. But so I run another group, not on Clubhouse, but one. It's a nonprofit organization, and it's in lean product development. And we have the exact same challenge that nobody's searching on lean. People think more about the Toyota. So how do we get it? And I think the answer is just as Stephanie said, is how you can get better at construction. And then you need to write, what is this your problem? Because people, when they're Googling, they're searching on how do I solve this, or how do I, they want answers or guidance to answers. So the better we can say, hey, have you faced this challenge, or have you faced this problem, or saying 80% is doing is this, because all the statistics helps as well. So maybe it's not the direct name, but it's more the content that's below it and the themes that we're talking about. It's just an idea.
I completely agree with Stephanie and Sana and everything that has been said so far. I mean, we walk the talk, so we constantly show and prove. One thing lead to another. We need to show how things are going to be better, and how those steps are going to improve the construction sector, because the only way we can change behavior, and the only way we can shift into a new way of construction and way of managing everything in general is by providing and proving that it's effective and it works. Simplifying, like I was saying earlier. I mean, the more that we simplify, also we know that there are different stakeholders, so a way of thinking, a way of treat or care about what they do. So starting by that, by the basics, so they can easily understand, because the first phase is to acknowledge. It's not just to be aware that something else is there. It's about to acknowledge that they can do better, they can perform better, they can deliver better for their customers, and that's where it brings also the value, the value within the economy that needs to be shift towards that direction. So I pretty much agree with Adam when you mentioned as well. We need to show the practicality of how the new systems, in a systematic way, that it doesn't mean to be complex. Because when you speak about systems sometimes, or innovation even, others think, oh, this is going to be more complex, or it's going to be more expensive even. And it's not the case, actually. So, for others to step on just by those barriers, we can access not their way of thinking, but for them to understand that what they have been doing till now is not enough. It's not good enough, because it can be better. And as soon as they do the shift and they click with that, then there is no way back. There is no way back, because when you know that you can do better, you make the efforts to make that happen. That's the ethical way how we should work. So that's what be my way of expressing what you wanted to know. Thank you.
Hey, can I jump in? This is Jubei here at the bottom.
Go ahead. I was going to actually have you introduce yourself, so go ahead. This is perfect.
How's it?
Absolutely.
I get the why. I support the why. The how is kind of like what I heard you ask, Marcus. And in my mind, I'm thinking like in automation systems that I deal with day to day. I tie it back to my roots where I was in construction, where I was a site supervisor for commercial and residential projects. And to me, what the difference I've seen in those two environments is private companies in in some industries, they support culture change by paying that, man. Like they tip the taker, like award systems to go ahead and you do something that provides savings or some kind of like help the pot grow. The employees are part of it. They like I've seen it in pharmaceutical and biotech that private companies go ahead and they have systems that allow all layers to in the process to contribute somehow, and they get awarded. I mean, it sounds kind of old school, but man, pockets are heavier, people are happier. That's all I got.
Jubei, appreciate that response. That's why Marcus and I are constantly talking about risk reward contracting, and I think John is an expert in that space as well, having executed IFOA agreements. It's putting the entire team that's willing to, right, together with skin in the game. So if everybody loses, everybody loses. If everybody wins, you're incentivized to do so that everybody can get the benefit of it, right? And it changes behavior when you do that. So I appreciate that comment. There are other ways to incent, though, without driving into that contract, right? There are other ways to say, hey, you can get recognized, you can be appreciated. But it doesn't mean that isn't a really great driving force as well. So thanks for your comment, Jubei. I know Myra, she hopped up on stage a bit ago. I just want to make sure, Myra, if you had something you wanted to share that we heard from you. So please introduce yourself and share your comment.
Yeah. So I live in Austin. Hello, guys. I don't do construction, but I am interested in construction. One of the things that I was thinking was this isn't also an answer to what you guys are looking for, but I think that also if we could all make our this is maybe a lot to ask for, even myself maybe, but if we could all just like have an own personal mission statement and know what our core values are, what we stand for, what you don't stand for, what you will and will not put up with. I think that if we all get to see what those things are, if we could just like some people, I guess maybe we'll write that out somewhere. But if people could see what you really stand for, I think that could definitely eliminate barriers where there might have been barriers in the past. So I don't know. It's just kind of like you and I, this is our goal, and both have the same one. And when you understand that, hopefully things will be a little easier. So those were my thoughts, what I was thinking. Thank you for letting me speak.
So one of the tough, Myra, thank you for jumping up here, and I appreciate all the comments about the idea of kind of that shared risk reward. How do we know we want to work together as groups? So like the idea of shared risk reward, I think is sometimes a tough one. It's scary for people because they feel like what you're going to do is you're going to pay more for a project if you're putting money into the pot as a shared risk reward element. And I get that actually a lot from my business partners who I try to push the idea of the integrated contract as the one that we should be using for all of our projects. And they feel like those projects are more expensive, let's say, than other projects. But we've studied it. After we've done these projects, we've gone back and studied the fact that change orders are reduced when we have a collaborative team effort on a project. Change orders, RFIs, unforeseen conditions, conflict, the deliverable of when the project finishes is typically well ahead of schedule. The budget, there's dollars being dropped to the bottom line if we do this correctly. So all of those things are positives. The one thing they're looking at is does the project actually cost us more than it would if we just ran a traditional design bid build lump sum type contract? And I think that's the thing we have to, if we're going to do that as companies, we need to guard against it. how do you get the individuals on the team to then buy into it? I think a lot of it has to do with the atmosphere and culture you create around. Do you bring in somebody to help coach the team? What kind of leaders do you have within the especially in the owners organization that are involved in this and supportive of it and really helping there to help facilitate the process and get it moving in the right direction. So if the owner buys in, then typically the rest of the team will buy in because the owner is that main person on the project team. So how do you get an owner to buy in? Sometimes the owner needs help buying in also, and that's where coaching and other things come into play. I know Adam said he didn't like the idea of a lean consultant, and I agree. I think consultants are there they do two things. Number one, they give you the tools but don't help you execute, or they just want to look at doing, quote unquote, doing lean on one project instead of becoming a lean organization. So you really got to get in and get into the back end philosophy to build this up. There's a reason why in the Toyota way, 4Ps, the bottom P stands for philosophy. So this is a long-term approach to improvement. This is not a get rich quick scheme. So even the idea of shared risk reward is again a long-term approach. Hopefully the people that you've trusted to bring to the table to work with you are not going to look at how can I get rich on this one project? How can I make the most profit possible on this one single project? Instead, they're saying, I want to build a relationship with this organization so that I can work with them long term. And that's what we're trying to really fundamentally build into our project process. And that's where the shared risk reward contract is so powerful because it does all of those things. It really puts it out on the table. And you really understand if you want to work with somebody again or not after doing this with them.
John, listening to your story actually gave me an idea about one of my first ever experiences with a shared risk, shared reward type of model, and this was like way back in college, which seems so long ago for me sometimes, but it was a pretty simple process, which was at the school academically, a lot of students weren't necessarily doing really well. And they were trying to figure out a way to like increase retention. I happen to be a part of an association called the National Society of Black Engineers, and NSBE for short. And one of the things that we ended up doing was I went to a conference called like Guarantee 4.0. It was like a program. And I found out that it cost like $10,000 for her to come and do a presentation. And I enjoyed it at NSBE, and I was like, hey, how could we actually bring you to a school? So I found that I got to learn a lot about schools and departments and how departments don't necessarily like or even trust each other. So the way I was able to sell it was basically they were thinking that I needed all of them to fit the bill. But the simplest way as a college student of me thinking about this was everyone understands what BIY, like bring your own beer or bring your own barbecue to like an event, or understand what a potluck is. So I'm not asking you to pay for the whole thing. All I'm trying to do is ask for you to pay for a percentage of the thing. And if when you're doing this and you're doing this process with all the different players that are trying to bring something together, like someone say, oh, okay, I can do 500. Okay, I can do 1,000. I can do whatever. And it worked so well that I got all these other departments that don't normally collaborate with each other or even trust each other, that the provost and the chancellor actually gave us money in addition to what we were asking for to actually make it in a bigger event. And that was my first time ever doing like any type of shared risk, share reward process. It actually made me absolutely love entrepreneurship after that. But and I was like, that's the most simplistic way to, in my mind, to express to people, like, if you're having like some type of cookout and you're saying, hey, I don't want to cook everything in my own house. can somebody bring a dish for whatever, and everyone pre-plans beforehand, and everyone sees the benefit of this at the end.
We've been doing that forever, right? Potlucks where everyone chips in, helps each other out. We've been doing this kind of thing forever. We got away from it where we get into our silos, and we expect that, I noticed this when I was coaching basketball for many years at this grade school. And as the years went on, people wanted to be a part of let's say the school community less. All they want to do is pay for something and have it be done. So you take this model of working together and just collaborating on anything within the school. So different fundraising efforts, etc. And then it became, well, I just want to give money and not go to an actual event or do something. So you lost this idea of working together. But we've been doing what you talked about. We've been doing this for a long time, which is, it's going back to like some roots that are, let's say they could be thought of as simplistic, but they're actually more complicated. How do we work together? How do we communicate with each other in a way that's going to bring about collaboration and a benefit for all, not just a benefit for one? We have to really think about how does this decision on a project might not benefit me, but it's going to benefit the rest of the team. And how do you get a teammate? This is the key, is how do you get those teammates to sacrifice a little bit on their side for the betterment of the entire group? How do you slow down to speed up? Those are the key factors that we really think about when we think about flow on a project. And elimination of waste, or the reduction of waste, is all about maybe slowing down one element to speed up all the rest. It's kind of, it's really interesting concept, Marcus, and it's great that we can tie back to these. We all have these experiences. If you think about it, every week, every day, you're probably experiencing something new that builds on these fundamentals. And because it is so, it is basics, and it's all about, let's say, just common sense. And that's what can be beautiful about the implementation and philosophy of Lean.
You also make me think of this book called Maverick, that was the story of a CEO out of Brazil that basically let his manufacturing company decide everything, their hours, the kind of work that they did, and how successful he was. If anybody hasn't heard of the book, it's called Maverick, and it really does tell you what happens in any environment when you empower people truly and honestly, and everyone has skin in the game.
There's a person, I know Brittanie is actually traveling right now. There's a person that we interviewed once. We should try to see if we can bring him on to actually talk about this. But it's a company called Estonia, I think.
And Stoa.
Enstoa? Is it Enstoa,
Yes.
Brittanie? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he decided to run his organization as a holography. And I had to Google it and understand what it was, but if you go ahead, Brittanie.
Yeah, it's a holarchy. But you can describe it. Holarchy. Yep. You can describe it.
And basically what it was a way for the organization to, people kind of chose their roles and chose what the jobs they wanted to do and what the tasks they wanted to go about. And it gave so much freedom for the group and the organization. And he actually saw a big increase as far as employees he was able to hire in the end, and in productivity from the company. I think it was actually pretty. I thought it was pretty innovative. I haven't heard of anyone else doing this within the construction space, at least. If anyone else has, or even heard of that concept or that term, please let me know. But that was the first time I ever like ran into a person that was decided to be that innovative and give power to his employees in the organization.
That sounds awesome. The only scary thing about it is like construction, you got some like regulatory expectations that we have to meet, and just letting that spirit go wild like that kind of could be risky, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I was just like, wow, like, but I'm gonna try to see if we can like, I can't see if I can do it as early as next week, but I'm gonna definitely try to see if I can get him on so he can actually talk about it.
Yeah, the gentleman is Jordan. His name is Jordan Cram. He did mention that it does not come. The system does not come without cost. Meaning, if someone decides, this is the team that they want to be part of this week, and they change next week, you lose that historic knowledge from that team member being on that team, and there is a lot of change. And to your point, you may not have the right skill sets to contribute to one particular team if you just jump in based on interest. So there is a bit of consideration you have to have around um, verifiable credentials, which is another room we had earlier this week. How skilled or how capable is this individual in actually contributing to what needs to be addressed in a team?
So one way to do that on a smaller scale, and I know this is something that our friend Felipe talks about a lot, is the idea of the Scrum board. So if you're looking at, kind of the techniques of how do you get a team to collaborate and at least understand all the things you have to do within a given week. I've seen construction teams implement a Scrum board where they will dump all the ideas, all the tasks they have to do for that week onto the board, and then anyone can go up at any time within this given team and pull a task off the board and work on it. And then when they're done, they move it. So you can then pick the things. If you're designing something or whatever, you could pick the thing you really enjoy working on within the greater level, but it still gets you to your end goal. So doing the brain dump at the beginning of the week, getting all those things out there of all the things we have to work on, it's a really interesting idea. Like if I really like writing contracts, something like that, I can pick all the contract writing, and other people can do the submittals, or people can do different things. They can process change, whatever you'd like to do. Somebody's going to have to do that task. And if you have a collaborative team of individuals that is highly skilled, that is trained to do all of those tasks, pick one and go, and then everyone can kind of fit into their mold also. So that's another way to try to implement on a smaller scale, on maybe a week by week basis with a collaborative team you're working on. Because I think the idea of empowering my workers to get to the full level of choosing what they do, what job they do, could be, is tough, right? Because you do lose that. If I want to move from one hospital campus to another within my organization, the issue is I have that knowledge base of the one hospital I've been working at for a while, and now I move to another one. I have to relearn the people. So there's a benefit to it, because when you walk into someplace with fresh eyes, huge benefits to that. At the same time, there's a learning curve that we have to follow too. So it's a really interesting concept of trusting the people that you work with, and that you're leading from behind and not from the front.
I would just quickly add, and that failure is an option, right? Like, as long as and I say failure in the sense of taking advantage of quick turnarounds of like lessons learned on how to pivot and adjust, right? Like, I think that's a mindset that you have to sort of be okay with when you enter into that loose of a organization.
Yeah, we talk about all the time, Brittanie. We talk about the idea of it's better to make a decision as a project manager and I put that accountability on my project management team. It was like, I'd rather have you make a decision, even if it is maybe the wrong path to a certain point, but within these guardrails, I'd rather have you make a decision on your own rather than wait and cause issues. Now that's twofold thing. So that, you know, on one side, I'd say that you have guardrails, make a decision rather than indecision. But the decisions you make sure that they're based in good, sound fundamentals. We have to make sure that we understand the certain parameters of our job. These are the guardrails we work around. So I work in hospitals a lot as construction manager, and the idea of doing something that would cause harm to the patients or the staff that are working there, that is not allowed. So that's outside of the guardrail edges I put on my project management team. If we're doing something and we're making decisions that are now going to have an impact on somebody's life, we are not allowed to do that. So that is a absolute no-no. That falls outside the guardrails of making decisions. So in that case, the decision to be made would be to stop the work until we can understand a path forward that would be safe for everybody involved. So that's the decision I want them to make, rather than, keep going because we got to get this job done. That is less important in a lot of cases, absolutely less important than people's lives. And when you're in a hospital, people's lives are at stake when you're doing certain things. Typical construction work can even be something that is unhealthy to people. So we have to think about that as we're building. So the decisions I want people to make are within a certain set of guardrails, and I give them those parameters. And I said, a decision is better than no decision at all, even if the decision is to stop. That is a wonderful decision a lot of the time. It's scary at first when you have to put yourself out there and say, I am not comfortable with this work that is going on, so we need to stop it. But what better way to prove your leadership than to do something like that, make that hard decision, because it's not as important as if you're going to threaten people's lives with a med gas shutdown, an electrical shutdown, an air handler shutdown, all of the things that these life support systems that we're working on all the time in our hospitals. We have to be very careful of that. So in this case, the decision that they should make is stop. And that's a good decision too. So we can't be afraid of that. Be thought of as maybe weak or as a failure, like Brittanie was talking about. If I say stop, it shows how much I really care about what's going on, to the level that I'm willing to sacrifice the end result in a certain time frame in order to make sure that it is the safest, best way possible to go forward with something. So we made it through an hour for my first hour. I guess I gotta drop off Marcus around about 8:45. I have another meeting to get to at 9:00. So I got about 45 minutes. I guess the question would be: are there other things that we want to kind of touch on, or are there things out there that people are having struggles with, either in the audience or up on stage, that you want to kind of bounce ideas off of with this group as a way to problem solve? So if the answer is no, then I'll keep going. But go ahead, Sana. Go ahead.
I have one. So we're changing our core values this week. Actually, we have a town hall meeting later today. And I think we had all fancy words saying innovation and all kinds of words, but it didn't. It's like everybody else has the same. So I wanted to pick anybody's brain or saying this is a good way of how to execute it, because of course we want to show them on a presentation and talk about them, but how do we get them more into action? So let me just say what we have here. We have 6 of them. One, we said we put more words on it. So we put one as saying see yourself. So be self-aware, your behavior impacts those around you, create positive impact. Another one is see others, be together, see beyond your department. We succeed, learn, and fail together. Always communicate is the third one. Say what needs to be said. Fourth one is create exceptional value. So every client gets our best, and we grow. Our best grows VCC. So VCC is the company I work for. The fifth one is deliver trustworthy results. Customer gets what they want when we promise they will get it. Customer return when they trust results. Then we have the last one is embrace the journey. Think critically, be innovative, mind the details, don't settle. All things can be improved. So that's going to be communicated later today. But if I look historically, I think 4 years ago we also have core values, and it's a piece of paper that we communicated. We have it on the website. But again, how do we, just because we have it on paper or we communicate it, how do we actually execute it and make it a way of living, right, for everyone? So if there's anybody who has some great experience of saying, hey, this is how to succeed with them, I would love to hear that.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Alan. Yeah.
Yeah, Alan speaking. Sorry for the noise. I'm driving. I would recommend you look into the Culture Blueprint by Rob Richmond. He has a lot of actionable tips on creating a company culture. Some brief chapters. There's also a free audiobook, I believe. You can reach out to him directly. The thing that I want to say, and I say this from the perspective of a frontline worker, of someone who is on the ground, who is the one in the presentation rooms where we talk about let's develop some core values, and we don't involve the folks that will inherently have to abide by these values. To your point, it's much more than just posting a poster on the wall and saying these are our values. But it's a whole other thing to have concrete examples, to consistently show up, to consistently reinforce these values. And in everything that you do, it needs to be filtered from top management, middle management, and certainly the frontline workers. So I think it's really important that the vision is not lost as it trickles down, because if you're not united in a single front, no amount of development around
I
from
lost
a
Alan.
frontline perspective.
Alan, we lost the last statement, first of your statements.
Which ones?
Just the last part that you're about to say. Your closing thoughts.
What did you last hear?
Sana, what actually, since that was directed to Sana, what was the last part you heard?
Challenging me here. I got distracted. So repeat it again.
The whole thing. Just embody. Communication is important. That's all I say. At every single level of communication, you want to embody the core values that you want to set at all times, and it needs to be adopted by all levels of the organization, whether it's top, middle, or the frontline workers. So my 2 cents.
Alan, can you repeat back the book that you mentioned?
The Culture Blueprint by Rob Richmond. I can forward the link to you, Marcus, and then you can pass it on to Santa if that works.
Okay, that's cool. Another book that I was thinking about to just kind of piggyback off this is there's a book that I actually absolutely love called Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. And within that book, he goes into detail of like strategies and like solutions and like why like mission, vision, and values and strategies are kind of like wrong a little bit. But one of the things that he talks about is like basically identify the key challenges that you're trying to overcome, set out a guiding policy to support that, and then what are the key actions to overcome that obstacle. And for a lot of companies to share like whatever their current goals are actually should be more around the guiding policies that they want to like represent, so they have something to always come back to. But since you are presenting today, giving you a brand new book and thoughts about that, I would for a Cliff Note version, they do like I can send you an Audible link and send you a chapter so you can just like kind of listen to it. But it does go more deep into the methodology and those type of concepts, but they are Cliff Note versions of the book, and it kind of just goes into the small part and the concept that he's talking about. Really, he labels as the author of Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. If you type in Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, and type in the word kernel, you should be able to pull up like the key concept from the book.
Okay, thank you. I'll try that. Thank you.
Can I add the 7 habits of highly effective people? At the beginning, I think they talk about one of the ways, I guess, to have a company mission statement is so it's not just something on the wall. It's they suggested you do it as a team, collaboratively together. So that's the only thing I was gonna add. And I highly recommend that book. I think it just teaches us about the paradigm shifts and how we all have different perspectives and how sometimes two people can think two different things but still be right at the same time. So it's kind of looking at life in that perspective. Highly recommend it.
Thank you. So I think also by having the core values, having meetings, or when we have the meetings with our team, have them bring examples of what they've seen, how these core values actually goes, is getting executed or we're living by them. Because again, if we put words on it, I think that'll be a great way to see it happening. But again, it doesn't you don't just flip the coin and then it happens. But talking about the examples, I'm hoping that will help us get the same mindset and look in the right direction on it. But I'll take a look at the books as well. So thank you so much for the proposal or
Sana,
suggestions.
one of the things when we kind of rebranded our company and did our revised our core values, the one thing that us as a leadership team did, and we set this expectation. We had weekly or biweekly staff meetings with our team, and we set an expectation that we wanted the team to come to the meeting with an example that they've saw in the last week or two of how we exhibited our core values or how we've done that. So it was really a continual effort of allowing the team to come to us, and we had to, as leaders, had to have examples as well. So it was around the table. Everyone had to give an example of something they saw where we exhibited our core values. And this happened continually for a while to really build in and instill this concept that this is something that we live by and we see every day. So it kind of called them out. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So do you still do it, or was it just a way to get it, on the track of living by the core values?
So we do this. We built a foundation of this concept and mindset. Then we took it a step further. So we took this idea of what are our core values? How do you see them? How do you visualize them? Then we created this program within our company called the Small Wins. It's our small wins philosophy, but small wins. And what it does is these are ways that we exhibit good value and bring good value to our clients by following through on our core values. And we give our team the opportunity to submit a small win that will be reviewed by our management. So we live by that value, and what we say is, if you submit a small win, the management team is going to review this small win, and it's part of we are asking our team to provide X number of small wins per year in order to boost up their bonus. So this is how we profit share with our team. If we're making good decisions, living by our core values, there will be extra dollars for you at the end of the year put into your bonus. So here's a way to cost share or to profit share with our employees that are exhibiting these behaviors that we want. So but this took a while to kind of build this machine. The first thing we did was we just said, bring the core values speak back to the team about what are we doing every day that is excellent and that exhibits our core values. And then the machine built from there. So we built this kind of one thing on top of the other.
Okay, that sounds that's a good way of building it, like small Lego, right? One step at a time. But
yeah, because we're giving them the power to have the stage to have the conversation about how they see these things in real life.
Yeah.
Now, the expectation is that they have to bring something to the meeting. So that puts a little pressure on them that they have to deliver on a weekly or biweekly or monthly basis, whatever it might be. They have to deliver something.
Yeah, but that helps the communication as well, right? So it's not just a one way. Yeah.
It's not one way down. It's they're showing examples to the rest of their teammates and in our team that, oh, well, if Todd saw this, then I've seen that too. So it's a nice way to connect this, and it makes the story interconnected between our entire IFS family and not just the leader saying, this is what you have to do. Here's the poster, put it on the wall and walk away from it. This is something that we are trying to push, is the inherent belief of how we manage projects, how we work with our clients, et cetera. And our ultimate goal is to drop enough money to the bottom line with small wins, because these are financial wins based on our philosophies. If we can drop enough money to the bottom line, that we make ourselves a cost neutral element to our clients as an owner's representative. And it's not about beating up the contractor on their pricing or anything like that. This is about thinking smartly and building smartly, and it will bring savings to the bottom line. We're not doing it at the benefit of somebody else's loss. We're doing it at the benefit of just good, solid business practices and thinking.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I know it's good to hear that that this way will work. So I'll implement that in my team. I'll give my lessons learned in a couple of weeks.
All right. Well, we just set the expectation, and we'll have that. See how that rollout goes. The other thing I do is you could do at the end of your meeting, you could do it like a plus delta. I don't know if you guys have that culture, you build that in, but what do we like about this rollout, and what do we think we can improve upon, or what do we think about, and it gives the team an opportunity to give some instant feedback on how they think things went with the presentation. So that's another way to kind of
to have it. Yeah.
Push this out there.
Yeah. Good idea. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah. So it looks like we got some folks that dropped off. It must be a busy Thursday morning. Anything else that we have that's kind of on top of our mind as far as the things that we are really struggling with or want to just find ways to improve upon? Yeah, I think that's a big element of what we're trying to do with the room here, is help people improve upon what they're already doing today and make it better.
I don't have anything, but yeah, it looks like today everyone's had a pretty busy Thursday. I know Brittany's doing some community work with Habitat and Humanity today, so
that's awesome. That's a great way to spend a Thursday. I'm sure that's part of the company's, again, their core values, their philosophy of helping people out. So, we all have skill set that we can use or to benefit the community around us, and we have to be conscious of that when we're working together, because it does make a difference. We were talking, I think, Susanna, you talked about the idea of the environmental impact of what you're doing. It's important for people to understand what the environmental impact is of what they're doing. And I think that's a huge benefit, and it makes people feel accountable for the community around them.
Yes, definitely. It's a massive mission that everybody has their own way of understanding and step forward. So yes, it's a lot that needs to be done. I mean, we can say we just started. No, I mean, 8 years of work, but still it's nothing. It's the job that we need to aim and the goals we have is we need to have so much collaboration and work together with others so we can really tackle those issues from the construction sector. No, I mean, construction sector is one of the most polluted sectors in our ecosystem. So we we are here to show others that they can do better, they can progress without not having major headaches, but just easily understanding how we can evolve together. Basically, I mean, it's like Sana was mentioning as well. I mean, I understand her that this sometimes it's not easy to find the visual ways how you're gonna help others to understand those innovations, those solutions. But I will add to what has been said that it's important again to prove and show the health of the materials that are presented as a solution, and also the life cycle not only of the materials, those innovations itself, but also uh, the impact, the positive impact potentially that is bringing forward to other materials, not just the materials that innovations or other products, new products that are coming to market, improvement. But when you have those systems, which I was talking about, not just a product, but a system that manage a whole sector, is a challenge. It's a challenge, but it's very fruitful as we step forward because stakeholders can visualize, can see that, and understand where is the problem. Very basic. Why we exist? Why exist this solution, and how we all can move forward. The boundary that is always there, of course, that was mentioned earlier, is behavior change. Change the behavior of the what has been normal till now, until yesterday, and then what it becomes the new normal um, within the next following years. Obviously, the sooner the better, because the impact um, that we can convert that into more positive way of living for the whole supply chain in our focus. No, basically how we manage the materials and everything is is good for everyone. Like it was said before, it's a win-win for everyone at the end of the day. So who sees the opportunity doesn't wait. They want to be leading as well the market, so we can show others and others to follow. It has to be repeat the exercise millions of times, so we can really see the positive results. Yes. Thank you, John, for mentioning. And just briefly, I probably will have to leave now because I have another meeting. But it's been grateful to be here with you today in this session, and I'm happy to be connected with you and move forward, because there is going to be a good conversations in the materials reuse club that I mentioned earlier in that we opened just recently, and that's it's very important that we start thinking, and not just thinking but actioning those solutions, and more that will come as we step forward all together. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Susanna, thank you. Thanks for the thoughts this morning, and really appreciate you joining the room. I know, Jen, you jumped back up on stage. I don't know if you have anything else you wanted to bring to the table as far as, some maybe a problem that you're trying to solve, or something that you're struggling with that you want to try to improve upon.
Thank you, John. This is Jennifer. I honestly, I don't have anything to that. I had some comments based on some of the stuff you were saying. So I just wanted to bring that up, and then it can be part of the discussion or not. But you mentioned a couple of things, so I'll throw them out there and then I'll kind of give you my thoughts. But you talked about your small wins, which we do a similar program. You use the word, and I'm real big on context. So I want to make sure you said your people submit them to you. So is it when they submit them to you, are they all approved? Are they all acknowledged? Are they all, or is it one of those where does it fall in the category? So there's that, just because of the word that you use. I just wanted to know, because I'm a huge let's elevate. And so you also used you talked about your kind of the bonus program, and I'm a big proponent of incentivizing teams and elevating people. And so I didn't know what you did once you got them versus the process of getting those small wins and how that equates to that at the end, the bonus. But is there anything in the middle that elevates those individuals for sharing it, but also maybe even what they shared, and being able to share that within the company? So just wanted to get your thoughts on and the answers on those questions.
So yeah, I'm not a Jen. I agree with you. I'm not a proponent of putting things in the suggestion box and having them never be read. So what we do is we have a project management software that we use, and there's right on the home screen you can click on it. It says small wins or IFS opportunities. So we have two different avenues. We have a small win, which is a project based, client based thing for room for improvement or continuous improvement cycle. And then we have something within our own organization where we look at opportunities that we can try to improve upon. And so what happens is weekly, the management team, myself and my business partners, meet to review what's been submitted. So there's a workflow, and the project manager or the employee that submits that knows when that workflow has been either returned to them, because there needs to be tweaks made to the language possibly that's in or maybe we need some clarification on what they're asking for. And then, so the workflow continues, and then it gets completed once we've approved the small win as something that is really an example of our core values and does count, let's call it, towards this big pool of dollars that we're trying to incorporate or bring back to our clients. So that's one avenue. So they understand when the workflow process has been completed, because the submitter gets notified when that process has been reviewed and completed. What we probably don't do a great job of all the time is highlighting those small wins that were really important and effective and powerful. Even the ones that are, a small win could be $100, but if I save $100 50 times, now I'm getting somewhere. So, we don't always probably do a great job of highlighting every single one that comes in the door, the really special ones. That's something we should do. What we do have is a dashboard that you can go see where you stand on your submission of small wins, the quantity, and then where the company stands overall. So we have dashboards that are available to our team within the same project management software system that we use, that does show where you stand in the overall and where the overall team stands. And a lot of, this is an individual thing to a certain extent, but it also has to do with the whole entire company. So the bonus program sets up where we have tiers of how many small wins you submitted. So if you submitted, 0 to a number, and then, whatever. So we have 3 different tiers. The top tier is the one where you get a 2, and then that equates to more bonus at the end of the year. So the bonus potential, like 25% of your bonus is based on, or 20% of the bonus, I think the number we did was based on the small wins philosophy. So again, you're talking about real dollars, 20% of their bonus, which we're asking, we want to bonus our team up to 20% of their salary. So it's a good chunk of dollars that gets distributed as a congratulations to all of our team members for the good work that they do every day. This is one way for us to identify that individually rather than as a company, because a lot of our other metrics are all based on how the company is performing overall financially.
Wonderful. So no, again, you answered my questions. I had just one thought, just on some experiences we've had, and you can answer this in a minute. But the time frame between submission and when they get paid, because I've realized just from my own experience, is the either excitement or the engagement or kind of the having a cool idea and sharing it, and then the time frame that passes before there's kind of a reward or whatever that is. Sometimes they'll lose momentum or they'll lose kind of the excitement about it. So do you do anything in between? And that's the reason I think I said I use the word elevate, because that to me is that short term. You can easily highlight things in the interim, before they get that bonus. And I've said this before on another conversation, but we do, and it's so minor because it's that intrinsic, extrinsic, what's motivating them, what's going to get them to do it again, and what's going to get them to be excited about it. Is we do hard hat stickers, and it's such a minor thing, but for someone to submit something and put it out there and want to to share whether something they've done or something that they're elevating someone else, we give them a hard hat sticker just because they took the time to do it. And what we've seen is when other people see it, then they ask about it, and then okay, and then that gets them kind of engaged in that program, and then they start sharing and stuff like that. So we've seen it organically grow based on some small, very small, not cost a lot, just little incentives that, in my mind, kind of help the team. But it is they kind of get that little kind of pat on the back and, hey, thanks for helping us get better.
Yeah, and I think that's one way where we probably are not. We're definitely not there with kind of this interim congratulatory thing. So we don't do that. We should probably do that more often, where we look at the list of things that we've approved recently, kind of share that with the entire team, because good thoughts, if I can bring out good thoughts about what one person is doing, it'll help build on what other people could do. And so that's, I think that's something that we aren't doing enough of. The year end, the bonus is really at the year end. So it's a tracking throughout the year. What we do have is a mentor program. So the mentors, you as an employee get to pick anyone else in the company to be your mentor, and you meet with that mentor quarterly to talk about how are you doing, not just on a daily basis, but how are you doing professionally overall. And one of the things that the mentor and mentee relationship could bring is how do I accelerate the number of small wins that I'm submitting? How do I change my thought process in order to do that? And so that's one way for the mentor mentee one-on-one to be able to kind of build on that. And so I think that's up to those two individuals to determine what's most important and what do they want to focus on. So I think the one thing that I'm taking away from this is that, and the one area where we can improve is to put that out there or display that somehow to the team of the great things we're doing every day, because we don't do that now. So it's a good point, and I appreciate the kind of the putting that thought bubble in my head so I can bring it back to my team.
Those are great, and I appreciate you sharing it. And I mean, I hear you talking, and it's like amazing things, and some greatness. And I know when you're starting to get people to share, and you're starting to elevate that, that's a game changer in this industry, because we're so used to holding things close because we don't want to people to steal our ideas, or we don't want to share our failures because someone will tell us that we're doing a bad job. So I think the program is amazing. And again, just that's my brain goes to, okay, how do we not only get them to share, but also elevate them for sharing? So no, awesome. Great job.
Well, thank you. Yeah, the secret sauce isn't the idea of sharing. The secret sauce is creating a safe space for people to share, where they don't feel like they're going to get criticized for throwing something out there that might seem silly or insignificant, because each one of these elements is significant. We're managing at any one time, the portfolio for our clients could be 300 to 500 projects at a time, with our project management team of a dozen people managing that many projects. So we have a vast amount of experiences working on big things and small things every day, and let's create a forum for people to bring those things to the table and not be critical of it. Yeah, we're gonna look at it with a critical mind when the partners are sitting there saying, does this qualify? But very few things that get submitted actually get returned saying, no, this doesn't qualify. What we're asking them to do, and we might challenge them to do, is use their brain a little bit more with the idea and descriptor that they put in there. So we say to them, hey, this doesn't make sense. Can you elaborate on this? Or can you, maybe the spelling isn't right? Or if we're going to create a document that we're going to hand to our client, we want it to look like, professional. So there's that element too, where we're trying to make them better by maybe giving them a little bit of a way to improve without criticizing. One thing that we did when we, and I wanted the voice of the employee to be heard, was when we redid our resumes for our website. And, I took out the project list that everyone puts down as like on their resume. I did all these projects, blah blah blah, and I added a section in there called "How do I bring value?" And I wanted the voice of the project manager to be heard. So it's up to them to write 3 bullet points about how they feel like they bring value to clients based on their experiences, their background, their passions. And it's a great differentiator for each of us to identify how we think we bring value to the team, because it's all gonna be a little bit different based on our backgrounds and experiences and our passions. And I tried to tell a story versus just showing a list of the projects I worked on, because it could be hundreds, and it really doesn't matter. How many cath labs have I built? How many, exam rooms have I put in? To that point, it's kind of like, so what? But when I talk about how I bring value to a team, I think when somebody's looking at that, they're like, okay, this is that person's core values. So this is what that person believes in. That's the kind of culture that we're trying to build. All right. Well, it's 8:30. Marcus, I think maybe we should probably close it up for the day. I got to run to another meeting here. It looks like a lot of people dropped off. So if you're okay with that, we can wrap up a little bit early today.
I am totally fine with that. This has been definitely good. Probably start. Yeah. Last Thursday we started 2 hours early. We ended up having a packed room. This time we just started an hour early. And this Thursday it just seemed like people just had to go. But it's been a nice seeing a different wave and a different shift at these different hours. So it's been fun.
Excellent. Well, thanks for setting this whole thing up, and we will see or talk to everyone next Thursday for the Lean Construction Roundtable. So I guess we start at like either 5 or 6 a.m. Central Time.
We're trying to get that 6 a.m. one Central Time trying to go, but because Adam said he only can do one of those times, Jen, I will be reaching out to you to try to see if you're interested in modding for an hour. I don't know if that would be of interest to you in between those times, but we can go forward and talk about that offline though.
See you next week. I'll talk to you next week.
Excellent. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Okay. Have a great day.
All right. Bye.